Welcome to WRR. This is Two Nerds Jousting, and we are going to be welcoming you today to second and
is this an NPR?
last.
Was there a punchline you were trying to get to, or was that
No.
just were you setting the? Was that just you were going to try to alter the change of the show?
Just continuing.
I thought we'd try on a new look.
Just continuing to do
All
that
right, I
until you
forgot.
finally interrupted it. Like, what the heck are you doing?
Okay, well, I was gonna wait until is he gonna get to a joke here? Or?
Is there a point to this?
I forgot we were on the. I was gonna make a Fallout joke, and everyone was gonna think I was clever. There's, in the original Fallout, the government, like what remains of the government of America, exists in an offshore oil rig, and it kind of looks like this, and it's called something, and I forgot. I do know
it's
it.
related to Fallout, you said?
Yeah, it's in the original Fallout lore. It's technically what the Enclave was in Fallout 3 is like the last remnant of Earth government of America's government.
Huh.
And they existed for a long time on an oil rig offshore. It was it was either the plot of Fallout 2 or Fallout 1 that you end up destroying it, but I know my geek references, it's just that I'm not great with names. Is what I meant by all that. We are still horrifically low on ammo.
And skills.
Now there's a division of labor there, but
Wow, I was talking about skills as far as our skill tree in the game, you nitwit.
those aren't skills. That would be upgrades.
Whatever you want to call it.
To the chemists out there, what's in this?
Disparaging.
Wait, this is just called the detergent?
Absorbent.
I mean, I suppose that, what are you? CH? Clean. I want to know what that is.
I think it's pronounced altogether. Clean.
Clean. I want to know what that is for anyone who knows chemistry lingo. I want to see what that is. And can I drink it using my augmented esophagus?
And what kind of
That would be the funniest
results would
augmentation
that
too.
produce?
If all you did was augment your esophagus, like just make it a flexible pipe, and you could drink anything. But
but then your gut still wouldn't be able to take it.
I didn't think about that. So you
Your
have to
esophagus
augment.
gonna be fine. It's just
You'd have to. It only hurts going out. You'd have to augment. But see, then could you do that? Could you get some kind of like industrial grade piping all throughout your intestines, and then just be like, I can eat anything? Because on the outside you'd look normal, and then you could just flex on people.
You'd be the superhero. I am a
supper-
superhero.
Is this
Yummy,
from
yummy, yummy,
something?
yummy, yummy, yummy.
I don't. Is this from something?
Well, yes, it is. But
Okay, so here's a question. I don't know if I'm allowed to be here or not. So I guess I'll keep my guns holstered until someone tells me otherwise. But anyways, now we're at a news station. We were at a Chinese... Ooh, buddy. You. Ah! Dude! What slobs live in here? I mean, I guess he doesn't lock his door either, but...
well, that could have just happened. I stepped away for 1 second.
I suppose he did. Maybe he just left to go get a paper towel. He's gonna come back to me rifling through his desk. Man, you gotta clean up in here.
It looks like trash.
I'm charging you 40 credits for that misstep. He's got tissues. I mean, they'd be a little flimsy. They'd leave crumbs everywhere. But I mean, still, bro.
That would also suggest that normally maybe he's a clean man.
Well, then I'm not... Whoa, okay, well, he's an important man. He's got his own espresso machine in his office. These... What? What? What's happening to the... What? It's magic telespoons!
There is no spoon.
I feel like I'm playing...
This is the Matrix. It's a glitch in the Matrix.
I've just had a... That's so weird. I've had a flashback to the original Doom.
What?
The way that the sprites would sort of turn because it was like the 2.5D system where the sprites, like, they were supposed to have multiple sprites for different angles, but they sometimes wouldn't work, and so they would just rotate the sprite to face you. But they're also sticking straight up. This is the weirdest. Oh, hang on. Oh, that's an even weirder glitch. So when viewed from down below, they don't move. Oh, we've broken the spell. Oh wait, no, it's been an optical illusion this whole time, hasn't it? It has. Oh, it's been spoiled for me now.
What does that mean?
it only looks like they're moving because of the fact that they're sticking up. So it makes them look like they're moving across the table, but you actually will realize that they are just sticking up.
But that's still a big problem.
Well, yes, that means that they're stationary. I thought that they were actually moving, which was an even stranger glitch. But now that we've spent, I'm just stealing all your cash today, pal. You're a slob. You spill stuff all over your desk and you leave your cash out. You deserve this. That chair. This looks like some kind of... Is this like for if you've got a cat and the cat can sit underneath here while you sit in the chair? And it holds your tablet?
What would that be for?
Oh, it's for a magazine. I don't know. It's some kind of weird Swedish ergonomics.
Like those bar stool chairs that you can sit in where you're able to play foosball underneath or whatever.
What?
Have you
never
not seen that?
These?
It's like
No.
like human foosball. Like you can literally like...
Okay, there's all kinds of slobs.
You could like kick a soccer ball between the two of you within the enclosure. It's pretty...
I have never seen these. So there's people just throwing stuff all around. Is there some storytelling?
It's probably more interesting when you're drunk.
So
I'm just imagining two people, and the more sauce they get at the table, they're just, I'm beating you by 2 points. Go!
Okay, so I think maybe there's some storytelling here. Either everyone in the office is a massive klutz, or some form of office catastrophe has occurred.
I think it was probably an earthquake, given that there were people walking around in the hallway like, this papers flew out of my hand.
Yes, well...
You're just augmented, so you didn't feel it.
Well, you're suggesting it happened right when I got here?
You've got the boingo knees.
Something's not rice.
Is it 20?
Something's not rice.
Something's not... Well, there are in fact...
You straight up said something's not rice.
Well, philosophically, it's a valid statement. There are some things that aren't rice. So he's saying something's not right because...
I'm going to steal that. It's a new catchphrase of mine. Something's not rice.
Well, if you do it with that accent, you'll have an issue. So, he's saying none of the phones aren't running, and this is supposed to be a 24-hour news network. No one's here. Everyone spilled their coffee all at once. So something happened. The cataclysm theory seems to be the prominent one.
It was the
everyone got raptured
Sarmageddon.
while holding.
You beat me to it.
This isn't coffee.
That man was drinking tar.
Well, he was now we know he was the augmented one. He would have to be to sit on such a strange chair.
Have you seen that one where it was like a guy that literally has a print off from, I think it was like his local police station or something, and he goes, there's literally a checkbox that's a printed PDF copy that says check if you're not a robot. And it's like, okay, I think they're missing the point here.
Oh, here we go. Super electromagnetic fields. That's okay. So here was
that guy was for sure a robot.
That was the office nerd. This guy's clearly some kind of augmented. He got what I was talking about. That augmented gastro track. Yeah. So apparently the rapture happened while everyone was holding their coffee.
That guy literally fell out.
Okay, so there's a bunch.
Look at that guy. He literally fell over.
And he broke his chair, apparently. Whatever that is. Oh, it's a lamp. So apparently there's a bunch of people drinking brake fluid or something in here. I don't know what that's about.
Probably why there was a lot of commotion.
People drinking
brake fluid will have effects on you eventually.
Wait, what? I've run through the whole place now.
They said this wouldn't do this to my brain.
Looks like everyone else. Oh, okay. I had to search the whole place.
What was her name? Look at her.
Eliza Kassan. She's the news host.
Do we care?
It actually will become relevant. We're gonna meet her because she's a famous news network person. Oh, pretzels! That's dope.
Does she have boingo knees?
Well, we'll have to see. I guess I actually don't know. Now I'm curious.
Now I'm interested.
Got to investigate this. So
we did a thing today.
Who did it? We or you?
Who did it? You absolved yourself so quickly of that.
Well, I'm just saying.
Who did it?
Was it? Are you roping me into this, or are you telling a story?
No, I'm roping you in.
Well, what did I do today?
So we tried out. We both have made the comment. You specifically made the comment.
I specifically took the math. You took something else. Everyone's drinking the nasty black. That gives a whole new meaning to my coffee black. I want my coffee with a shot of exhaust fluid.
you were talking about the idea that Mountain Dew historically has not been specifically ashamed of trying out new and albeit bizarre things.
That's some proper coffee.
And today we tried a very bizarre thing. They apparently now have maybe we're late to the party on this, but now they have
it's press seasonal thing, I'm sure.
Fruitcake taste.
We have a fruitcake unrelated to the Mountain Dew. Why does it keep doing that?
It's a thing.
Page with the article rebuking
Mountain Dew fruitcake between. It's good. It was actually not bad.
Wait, approved? No, it's weird.
And in true,
like most fruitcake related things.
I feel like the only other soda that actually attempts that kind of tomfoolery is
tomfoolery is the right word for it because it is weird.
Is Jones. Jones does that.
Yeah, but that's their whole MO, so it's no longer tomfoolery.
Well, what is it at that point?
I don't know.
Chicanery and
yes. So I could hack this one. Is there anything am I gonna learn anything? Oh, they won Unsullied Coffee!
No. That I think chicanery is still too mild. It's malarkey at that point.
No, chicanery is much more severe than malarkey.
Is it really?
Chicanery is a little bit more like malicious trickery. Malarkey is more like prankiness. At least I have no clue if there's these strict definitions.
The big three.
Every single person in the office
is drinking break fluid.
Okay, so there's the one coffee that's full and hasn't been spilled. Whoever is sat at this desk.
What's happening is each person is drinking a different weight of oil.
I don't need stuff.
I personally like
the 5W30.
I personally like the 40 weight myself.
I like the 10W20 myself. I like it to feel like Guinness. Severus.
I was gonna
Servior
for 5W40.
Hang on. Where are we? Is Ontario in Quebec? Are we in Frenchville?
Canadians are freaking. No, I'm just kidding.
Servior. Is Ontario? I don't know enough about.
Ontario is in Canada. Yes.
Oh, I know it's in Canada. I'm saying, is it in the French-speaking part of Canada? Is it in Quebec?
They all French somehow, aren't they?
No.
I'm joking.
Okay, so what is my point? It
looked like maybe they were not drinking brake fluid.
Not everyone is, but everyone spilled it, is my point. Like everyone who has a cup that's full. Okay, here's another one. So we've come across like 12 spilled coffees. And
spilling all my oil.
5, 6 unspilled ones.
So those people apparently have surgeon's hands and need to.
Well, that's because of that oil. That's what it keeps them steady and lubed up. Oh boy, MDM wants Eliza to wear a blazer from the new fall collection. Blah blah blah. So that's who we're here to meet. Is this Eliza person?
Eliza Jambalaya.
No, she was just on the TV. Oh. Okay, so there's a trail. There's Eliza Kassan. I've played this game several times, so of course I remember. This looks like a mob office. Why would you? You're supposed to sit in this chair with the striped lights across your face, saying things like,
"You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding."
Panchea about the discussion. USSR. What?
Now here we are.
What?
We're the USSR. Have you?
I don't know.
Never heard that song?
Should I have? I don't think I should. Based on how it sounds.
No nuclear fight. We just
What?
want to have a beach party tonight.
I don't know this.
Oh, yeah, I have to show you that song.
Oh, plot's happening.
Plot relevance.
Stupid. Why is that?
The mob is entering.
Please.
Either that or he's entering heaven.
So there's the news lady. Let's see about those knees.
What on
Show
earth
me your
is
knees.
going on with your face?
She's got. It's that. Here's the thing.
Ever since
I'm annoyed because it seems like people only get to dress interesting in the post-apocalypse. Is it really what it's going to take?
Well, it's when people give two craps about
exactly, but why is that what it's going to take?
Care.
Why do we have to be in a post-apocalypse before we can just dress how we want? That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, if someone walked down the street wearing this, I'd be like, props to you for wearing it. I mean, it's weird looking,
there
I grant.
certainly are people that walk around like that.
I've never met them. Where are they at?
Have you never seen any goth walk around with massive leather trench coats?
I've seen some goths walk. Well, here's the plot relevance. She is not real.
Sorry.
What?
She's a hallucination. Not a hallucination.
She's a hallucination.
She is actually a...
This whole building is
I
actually
kept wanting to say telegram, and that's not the right word.
It's a
hologram. So that's the interesting thing
whom
is that...
did you send the hologram?
That, yeah, the famous newscaster is actually not a real person, and that's an interesting bit of... Yeah. It doesn't. I don't know if it has any other relevance to the plot. Like, I don't know why that's the case. Like, other than that, I guess it's a cyberpunk future.
So you're actually.
So she is Hatsune Miku. Hatsune Miku got into the news. Stun gun. Well, I'm too late into my murdering for that. I'm not changing course now. Cafeteria massacre. Yeah, it's all the spilled coffee.
I thought that this was slightly an intriguing
Whoever
article
started
I
the
read
experiment
today.
in Cafeteria Fridge 5?
We don't know what's happening, but stop drinking oil.
Oh, interesting.
What is what?
This is the
Insulting all senses. Could you what? Could you please buy yourself a some anime?
This is the funniest workplace email.
Clean it up.
This is the funniest workplace
Renzo needs
email
to
ever.
freaking get promoted to head of HR.
I'm not sure. I feel like he deserves better. Because that's the funniest workplace email I've ever seen. Assaulting all senses. Seriously, every third coffee in this building has been spilled.
At least that one's actually espresso and not black.
Yeah, nicotine.
Sludge. Nicotine.
What's in cigarettes that make them black and filthy? Is it the...
What on earth was that?
I don't know. What was it?
I think that came out of my dog's nose.
Well, I'd rather that than anywhere else. I forgot that this happens. Whoa, they're all synchronized. Synchronized murdering. They're all wearing striped pants too. It's. What kind of a circus act is this?
They're
There's a fiddle shooting you up.
they're in uniform. They're.
But look at the way they move. Look at the way they hip hop and the way they lockstep with each other.
This is like after synchronized swimming got old, they were like, oh,
synchronized assault.
We got to figure out something more exciting
Well,
than that.
I didn't have my gun drawn. I just poked my head out and then, howdy, fellas! I see the circus act is coming along well. What were you were gonna? I was. Were you gonna diverge from what I was saying?
I was gonna actually say something of substance.
You talked about an article, but I want to still talk about why the post-apocalypse gets all the good fashion. Because seriously, I've seen goth people walk around.
Actually felt like that was.
It's more true in games, but it's like, well, but
so mainly games then.
Games, but because post-apocalyptic movies, I've never seen.
Oftentimes they're like hellfire and brimstone kind
yeah,
of
like Mad Max. Well, Mad Max has some weird design stuff, but they're a little bit more.
I'm talking more like
scavengery.
What's the 2015
I guess
and the Cloverfield
argument? I suppose the argument here is that this isn't technically a post-apocalypse because nothing apocalyptic has exactly happened, but it's a dystopia. Maybe it's that in dystopias people dress interesting.
Dystopia. It's like
you attempting to play off of the Rihanna song.
I was, and then I just gave up.
And then I gave up because then I was about to reference Rihanna. I don't know.
I'm speaking about Rihanna.
What?
Yeah, it was a.
You're just full of references I don't get today, so this is where everyone is. This is where everyone is! You just about blundered straight in there. Wait.
He saw me too. He was like,
whoop.
am I...
Well, they're gonna what? What's your...
Oh, I thought... He didn't catch it.
Of course he did. You did that right in front of him.
Yeah, but they aren't doing anything.
Well, they know where...
That was brilliant.
It's a NATO.
Okay.
You are blind. This ain't bad.
I didn't know that they could...
I didn't know that they had those. They've used them against us before.
Just saying that was far more effective than I was thinking it was going to be.
Yes, grenades by the feet tend to be
I wasn't
inimical to health.
I wasn't meaning the grenade. I was saying the roll. I was thinking I was done for, and I might as well
actually... So I think we've discovered something relevant, though, because I suppose it's true that it's not the post-apocalypse, because in the post-apocalypse you just wear whatever you could. Like, if I found an 18th century like soldier's uniform, I'd wear it in the post-apocalypse. Because I wouldn't have a choice. It's the more dystopian element where... But that's interesting, because you think in the dystopia... Why would... Generally, odd fashion statements are like a way of like expressing individuality and rebellion.
If nothing matters, then you're just going to go...
Yeah, but nothing matters now anyway, so why don't people dress more interestingly?
Well, why don't you dress more interestingly?
I should, I just don't have the clothes.
Well, this actually
brings me... Because I see goth people, and when you're talking about, like, yes, I've seen goth people run around. None of them were wearing what she was wearing, though. If I saw someone wearing that, I'd actually be like, hey, applause to you.
Just the collar? The purple collar?
Yeah, but that's not enough. That's not that unique. Like, yeah, sure, but it's not... If you're wearing the weird, whatever boots, I guess we didn't get a chance to see what she was wearing. I didn't get to look at the knees. But, like, if you're wearing a Victorian ruff that goes up to your ears, it's like, okay, you're committed. I at least appreciate the commitment.
The cravat. It's a picture.
I like the cravat, actually. Cravats are... The problem is you just can't buy them either. Because that's the other thing. That means that some companies must have started commercially marketing.
Well, so there you go.
This kind of clothes.
You found your niche. You have to start marketing it.
Start marketing cravats and
haberdashery.
There you go. I don't think I want to kill these guys because I don't know why they're here. But then again, that's metagaming.
What?
Well, I feel like dude. What did he was oddly. He's oddly determined to search around this printer. Please go the other way. Other way. Yeah, okay, good.
Stay alert.
Why are you alarmed? You're strange. I don't have a silenced weapon yet. I feel like by this point in the game I normally had a silenced weapon. Because there's no way I can kill any of them without just making everybody aware of me. So perhaps I shouldn't do that. Perhaps that's the answer.
So what do you feel like on a fashion level you want to wear that you don't? Let's be honest here. Are you like talking? I want to dress androgynously, or
no? Here's the thing. If I could, this is gonna sound stupid.
Super ultra mega gay.
No, not that.
And demonetization.
It's just gonna make me seem like a real fanboy. But I would definitely. He was sneaking. He was prepared. He shot out from that corner like, ha-ha! I would absolutely dress like someone from Arcane.
Nah, imagine my surprise.
Well, exactly. That's why I was like, I know you're gonna think it's silly.
No, it's not silly.
I'm just saying.
I certainly
Silco had some banging style.
Totally, 100% agree with that. That is very true. And
so there you go.
I don't think all of the
not
characters
everyone,
in
of
that
course,
show,
because some of them were like, okay, you're clearly just wearing something you found in a dumpster. But again, if you live in the gutter, I suppose you might have to. But see, it goes
back to my earlier point. Silco had to. We talked about this with even the whole argument.
Now you agree with me.
Well, I haven't even made my point yet.
You first made fun of me, and now you're going to agree.
No, what I'm saying is even like in the same context as Peaky Blinders, we've talked about the idea that once you have almost had a near-death experience or whatever, you start to go, forget all and every...
I don't think that's the reason. I don't think it's because everyone dressed like that. Silco wasn't just like the only guy who was dressed nice.
Silco was a fairly...
Everyone wore. He wasn't wearing that much of a weird. I'm just saying. Because there's the thing. You could do the Peaky Blinders and just like, okay, I'm going to wear a suit everywhere I go, and that would also be different because people don't do that much.
And I have definitely considered that, but it's very difficult
to wear a suit. Well,
in various.
What do you?
I'm not.
You didn't have a plan.
I'm not gonna meta it. I'm just
open fire.
Start blasting.
I suppose let's just embrace the inner gremlin.
What?
And just kill everyone.
You mean Krellman? No, I'm just kidding.
Embrace the inner Kremlin. I feel like that needs to be turned into a meme.
Embrace the inner...
I want a meme of Mikhail Gorbachev with like the glowing red eyes. Whatever that, there's those memes nowadays where it's like you give like the super intense glowing eyes. Just embrace the inner Kremlin. In fairness, though, Gorbachev wasn't the first. Who would have been the first? Would it have been Stalin?
Have you seen the one of Stalin that says
There's
it's
been
a shirt
plenty of-
that says dark humor is like food. Some people get it and some people don't.
Yes, of course.
I love that one.
But see, when was it called the Kremlin? Was that a Stalin thing, or was that a post World War thing? Because whoever it was, I wanted a picture of them with the glowing eyes. It just says, I almost said release the Kremlin.
Release the Kremlin.
Anywhere, embrace the inner Kremlin. Either one is funny to me. All right, well, I guess... But the problem is we don't have the ammo to just off everybody.
I'm pretty sure they considered that too.
Well, that's what they the Battle of Stalingrad certainly agreed. Sir, I only have a gun and no ammo. Go out to the front lines. Sir, I only have ammo and no gun. Follow him.
Oh, this is getting darker by the minute.
Well, it's history. That's all right. This is culture. I am going to pull off an immaculate shot.
Ah! He turned around like you say, what?
Speaking of being a little bit gay.
Oh, you weren't lying. That just dropped him like a bag of hammers.
He had a bit of a hip-hop to his spin that I thought was a little too exuberant. Come on, investigate your friend. What was that, pal? Oh, crap.
He's dropping it like it's hot. They really are synchronized, aren't they?
I think these are all actually a clone of one man. I think they're a hive mind. Oh, those are just balaclavas. They're not wearing helmets. Your melons are free. Oh, okay, grenades. I'm in cover, though.
Oh, my God.
There's dude. I'm just dropping them like flies. Oh.
And then they dropped you just...
Well, hey, I took out 3 for the one they got me. That's worth
that
something.
was too good.
I'm having a Pepsi brand cream soda. Don't know why I felt the need to say that. Is this the mukbang episode? Hang on, I'll get nice and close.
What is that called again?
Oh, it was fizzy. It was so much fizzier than I thought.
I'm scared. And the podcast right here, and just, I'm pretty sure he died.
Oh my gosh, that was like 10 times fizzier than I expected. I just inhaled an entire mouthful of fizz. I don't think I tasted any of the actual liquid. Oh man! Ooh, I'm alive. This was the real methamphetamine. That's a great way to start your day. Choke on some sugar fizz.
Woo! So, outside of that experience...
Oh, what was I saying? Something about mukbang?
No, I was about to say, what is that called? The AMSR or whatever it is?
I have no clue.
That
What are you
weird,
even
like-
talking about?
When people listen to, like, noises up close.
Oh.
Weird. What is it called?
Oh boy, ASMR? AMSR? I thought you were still talking about some Russian thing.
Now here we go.
Oh. Well, I've made a mess of things.
This whole couch is gonna be sticky now, you muppet.
Well, thankfully, it all got on me instead. Well, that was unpleasant. all the things I do for you. And that noise you probably didn't even want to hear.
Because it was like right next to the mic too. Oh, it's probably just gonna come through. It's just.
Well, these are the kinds of things that happen when you don't have topics.
Well, we have some.
We have a
topics.
topic about fashion and what I would wear. I actually specifically, if I had to give a specific, the thing I think is more interesting, I actually don't like the post-time skip outfit that he wears. It's a little too poncy.
Oh, you had mentioned that when we were talking. I think you actually said that when we were unpacking our.
Because I think he's obviously like, now that I'm in charge, I can dress like however I want. But before he looks, it's like he's
categorically differently. I feel like Tommy Shelby actually pulls that off really well, where he grows with his outfit, or his outfits grow with his.
Well, but they're just as a matter of like they get more expensive.
Well,
and
but
fancy.
also but it's not as like I've arrived.
Well, he never goes like
Well,
full
I
top.
clearly don't have your shot. I literally shot him, and he just like looked at me like, that hit me in the nose, pal.
Oh man, I'm still feeling that. That was unpleasant. You gonna excuse? You're just taking another turn. Oh. But like, I suppose he never goes full top hat and tails. Like, oh, look at me in the House of Lords or whatever.
I feel like that would have been a little too like.
But I feel like that's
Batman
a little bit like what Silco did. He's like, okay, now you're just trying to show off because obviously he's in charge.
Think he
it's
went
like
that far?
It's like he's got a vest with gold trim on it and random belts that don't do anything. I'm like, okay, the coat I admit is pretty fabulous, but it's got like the collar that goes out 12 feet.
You would do it if you could get away with it. Don't even lie.
I would go slightly more subdued. I'd have the collar like big, but not that big.
Well, he was big.
But I don't know. There's something like he's got the like the old school pants that have the buttons instead of zippers, and I don't know why I find those interesting.
I love those.
There's an interesting kind
Are
of.
they riding pants or that?
Technically, they're technically not. I mean, I don't know what they'd be called. They're specifically, you would just call them fall fronts rather than fly fronts, which basically means the flap, like it opens up rather than zips.
Okay, so sidebar.
They are often on riding pants, but that's not what makes them riding pants.
It is colder than
What are
I don't even know what right now in our area, and I actually considered long underwear, like old school long underwear, with the weird. But then you got the weird little rear flap that does the weird. Hey, you can go to the bathroom just by taking off these buttons, and
Well, but I mean,
it's helpful. It definitely would be a weird thing to
I'm
get used
sticky
to.
in places I don't want to be.
Because I mean, it reminds me a little bit of like that weird little cross hatch hole that you have in boxers and things.
Hey, that proves useful when you're wearing like a suit that you don't want to. If you've got pants, if you're doing the tuck, if you got your shirt tucked into your pants, then you don't want to have to untuck everything. That's what that's for.
There, I suppose. I have just never understood it with like.
Well, that's what it's for.
Pajamas specifically and things like that. I'm like, I don't understand
pajamas.
This. If I'm in like comfort wear,
well, I guess mine do that too.
You look down at. I'm just saying, I've never understood it within comfort wear. I suppose I understand it within like a, hey, I'm all duded up and I don't want to adjust my.
Duded.
What is
duded up? Yeah. See, he does. He has he's got a hop, skip, and a jump to his step.
Issue with that?
Duded?
Yeah, duded up. Like
I've never heard this phrase. What's the verb? Dude or doot?
No, dude.
I'm dooted up.
No, dude, as in like.
But what makes you a dude? Just because you're wearing a suit? That's a low bar.
Okay. It's a phrase. I don't know what to say.
Oh man, these guys are good. See, now the problem is I'm sticking to the couch. But if I don't take the shirt off, the shirt will stick to me. I didn't bring a change of clothes for this. I didn't expect to nearly
his
die.
Clothes have stuck to his body because he's forgotten to dry himself.
I'm going to have to put it back on to prevent fusing to the couch, but then I'm going to fuse with my shirt. Ugh.
It's going to be like those people that don't take their contacts out for 3 months and then just
You now have an internal second eye. This is
when
so
you try
horrific.
to take them out, cataracts.
Oh, this is. I don't think I can do this.
Is it literally all over you?
It is pretty thorough.
Pass me one of them. Now that you've had a bad experience, I'm going to know to
insulate.
Be more careful.
Don't do what I did. I'm still feeling it a little bit.
Well, in whatever you called it, ASMR or whatever it is.
I called it a mukbang. You were the one who brought that up. There you go. I'm insulated from my clothes now. That's not bad. I should give the proper commentary.
Yeah, but it's got the real cane sugar heavy.
I don't think that's inherently a problem.
I don't know.
It's better than A&W, I feel like. A&W feels too thin, feels too fake.
Sort of stretched like butter scraped over too much.
Man, I'm going to be dealing with that all day. Anyways,
So you would
I like those pants. Those are kind of cool. I don't know why, because I don't. Maybe it's because they have a sort of Regency era vibe to them. Because that, like you said, you often see them on riding pants, but they're not exclusively riding pants.
But do you like that particular era? Is that why?
Well, that was certainly an interest. I mean, that's sort of 1800s, early 1800s is when that is, and that was an interesting age of a lot of things. But then it's also like he's got, going back to Silco, it's like I like the fact that he's got, the vest and button shirt, but it still kind of looks like a worker's clothes. He might.
To that
he's
point,
technically at that point he's only a factory owner, so it's like he dresses nicely, but he still looks like he could work if he needed to.
We've talked about that, and I actually
that's the vibe I would want to hit is like, yes, I'm dressed nice, but I could still dig a grave.
But see. Does that work in modern context? Because I would love to do this.
Not without some unique... You'd have to find, like, real specific clothing choices. You would have to make it a deliberate thing.
And this brings me to I came across this today.
Is this your article? Was this good?
No, this has nothing to do
I've
with
seen
the
that.
article. And I thought, this is
You clearly haven't spent a lot of time on Pinterest, because I've seen that
I'm in
before.
roofing, and for those of you that don't know. And
which would be everyone.
I feel like the context...
I tried to convince you that you could get away with a button shirt and a
thing.
vest and still look like you're doing it.
Peaky Blinders has that quote or whatever where he's dressed more just in the button-up vest or whatever, and she says something about, oh, you actually look like a working man. I don't feel like that's the culture now.
Not anymore, no, because he's still wearing like a dress shirt and a vest and slacks.
And
it's
only because that actually affects my work as far as like
but
clientele.
It wouldn't have to. Okay, I thought you were saying in terms of like the actual ability to do your job.
See, it's more like if I show up at somebody's door and I look like I don't belong on a roof. You know what I mean? Like in a modern context.
I guess.
That's what's frustrating. I'm like, that's I think what limits me, at least now, to dressing differently than I would. Like, I mean, like I don't know what you feel like would.
I don't really have that limitation. My office is very casual.
You could come in dressed like Dracula.
If anything, if I actually started wearing like a suit to the office, I probably will be more weirded out by that. Because it's just it's very casual. I mean, that most offices are that way nowadays. Where it used to be, no matter what you did.
To me. I mean, like
I think it's just the general sort of. I don't know. We, as a culture, don't expect much of ourselves and others.
Well, that kind of gets to I suppose on a more cognizant level, I can kind of diverge into that. I feel like as a broader representation of where we're at as a culture at large. I mean, we're just not expecting.
That's why Jordan Peterson has the one. There's a clip that was going around of him talking about why he wears suits on all of his talks and in his tours and things, and he goes into it's like he did it.
Well, he actually at one point said, first of all, I like them.
Right? Yeah, but he was also like, I'm gonna be speaking to people around the world, large audiences, and I'm just gonna, I want to. You've used the phrase like I'm gonna do this right, because there's a certain element that you're like, well. I'm trying to think because maybe we don't. I was gonna try to make an example, but maybe we don't know anymore of what's appropriate.
Who?
Because I was thinking, as a culture. No, I mean, as a culture, it's like I was going to say something like
100%. We don't.
Like if you went to say like an opera, which no one goes to anymore, of course, but like if you did, surely there's a part of you that knows I should dress up for this, right? Or maybe they don't. Maybe that's not a thing anymore. Okay, well you've somehow alerted your acrobatics have alerted everybody.
Wow, he
just flip-flopping around. But like maybe that's true. Maybe if you went to an opera nowadays, hardly anyone would be dressed up, and that would be a shame.
Real shame.
Because again, I think that was gonna be my example of like, everyone would know that that's the appropriate. Because the whole Sunday best thing, that's no one cares about that anymore,
which is tragic. But
it was just a way of showing respect to the thing you were going to. It's I'm going to participate in this, and I'm going to look my best doing it.
But what, to me, showing respect for nothing is actually more a representation of showing respect for, or not showing respect for yourself.
Well, I suppose if you respect nothing, yourself would be included in that.
Well, but my point is, if, for instance, you don't have a Sunday best kind of context. For instance, black tie, well, I'll go as far as to even say white tie, used to
white
be
tie is like
real.
white tie used to be like like you are going to the opera or
Right,
you're going
but
to a
I'm
wedding
going.
or something.
Do you know anything that's white tie now?
No,
That's
not
what I
even
mean.
weddings are.
That's
like,
what I mean.
Weddings aren't even black tie anymore, strictly.
So I go, where did that go?
Just,
I
think the thing is, and I think this is all tied together. This is where we're about to get real deep. Because I think the crux of all of this is, it was the sort of early 1900s World War I screwed everything up, not just obviously in the ways that you would expect, but just culturally speaking. Because I actually learned this.
Was that more about industrialization, though?
No, it's the opposite. I learned this because I had to take one of my electives was an architecture class, which was really interesting because I thought it would be better than some random art class. Oh boy! All right.
That was really sad.
Pear-shaped. And so because the other example you'd notice if you pay attention is like, why do modern buildings suck? Buildings are just big blocks of concrete, and that's gross.
Because they're cutting corners in material and
cost. No, not really, because they're expensive.
Yeah.
You've got buildings made out of steel and glass. Those aren't cheap materials.
They're not cheap materials, but they're certainly not doing it the way they ought to be. I mean,
well, I agree, but the reason that that they described in the class is it's actually traceable to effectively what happened was there's good reason, sort of, but it went too far. Because the aristocracy of the late 1800s, the early 1900s, that brought about World War I effectively, because World War I literally was a meaningless war that had no purpose and killed millions of innocent young people, men specifically. It had no purpose. World War II, yes, okay, we know why we did it. World War I literally was just a big mess of
I was trying to go
allegiances that didn't need to. This one was because that's the joke. You've certainly heard the joke where it's when a Serbian kills an Austrian in Yugoslavia, so you as an American have to kill Germans in France. It's like there's literally no reason why any of us got involved in this, but it was just aristocratic diplomatic ties. That's like, okay, well, they're going to war with them, which means we have to go to war with them. But now, we're at war with them, so because they're allies, so because we're at war with them, then their allies are at war with us. And it was all just meaningless. So basically, it produced a generation of people who went, screw that. And that was effectively what brought about the collapse of the aristocracy. That's why so many nations declared their independence after World War I. But what ought to have happened... Well, no, it's a baby in a bathwater kind of situation because, yes, certain things should have been...
I feel like what happened was, with the aristocracy got thrown out, everything the aristocracy...
Yeah, exactly. So that's precisely... Because the thing is, all the fanciest buildings in Europe were built by very rich, usually nobles, because they're the only ones who could afford them.
Correct.
And so everyone went... We hate everything to do with the aristocracy. We don't want these kinds of ridiculous, opulent, over-the-top buildings. And so we just made buildings strictly utilitarian, and then 100 years of that go by, and we realize everywhere you go looks like just an industrial complex, and nobody wants to be there. And, and I think that carries over. It's like the fashion as well. People don't like dressing up because if you were to wear a suit down the street. Yes, some people would be like, oh, you might get some compliments, but some people might give you the side eye as like, who do you think you are?
Right.
Like, do you think you're so special? Like, if I went into my office wearing a suit, people would be like, what's the occasion? Why do you... He's flanked me. These guys got good guns. That was some alliteration for you. That took a moment.
I'm going to take a brief sidebar. I don't want
none unless you got guns,
tangent. I'm going to take a brief tangent because it's related and I really feel like we're doing well at flowing with topics. Yeah. This article that I was about to mention...
full circle.
This article I was meant to mention literally is about a painting that just recently surfaced that is a famous painting. It was in France and this...
just in France.
Well, I can't remember what part of France, but basically this hotel that had gotten not only abandoned, but then also, what is it called? Condemned for the longest time, has literally sat unused since 1935 or something like that.
Why?
Literally, I have no idea. But this guy, then they literally auctioned it off recently, in like I think it was 2017 or something like that. And this guy literally bought it and was going through the rooms and things, and opened the door to this room, and most of these rooms, and basically it was a time capsule to pre-war, and it was like, it was when everybody had abandoned, not abandoned,
France?
but been
It's probably before the German occupation.
right, but they were evacuated. That's what was the word I was looking for. They were evacuated, and it literally was just a time capsule at that point. It just stayed that way. And the way he described it was like, it was like all the dust and everything else was just there waiting for when the resident returned. Well, then come to find out that this particular flat, because it was an actual like,
so it was the kind that people actually like paid and stayed in year round.
I mean, and it was like a really expensive type. Well, apparently this particular room that they found was a famous actress that was kind of an aristocrat of sorts, and was a part of high society, that had this painting done of her grandmother that ended up being, and I'm gonna have to look up the gentleman that
do
painted
it after you die.
Which we all know is going to take 2 seconds. Anyway, he was a famous painter that basically it was just no one knew it was in there because it had sat there forever, and it's another great example of where I go.
I don't think that's fast enough for them not to see you do it.
It's not about them not seeing me do it. It's about
there's going to become a guy from behind you, because that's the guy who always kills me, is the one who comes from behind.
He's right there. He's coming from the front. But anyway, to me, as you were talking about with the whole concept of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that's another great example.
I think it's just, we rejected anything that resembled high class because we associated it with, the nobles and royals who sent young men to die for literally no reason. And it's like, naturally the political reforms that occurred after that were totally justified. I'm not denying that, but I think we've basically went anything that represents some kind of class and higher. I mean, that's why we have the term is classy, because it actually used to refer to upper class. Well, and we basically went, anything that refers to the upper class has to be done away with because of the bad association.
We kind of almost got to the whole. Was it Machiavelli that did the whole bourgeoisie nonsense? No, that was sorry.
That's just been a term, I don't know who invented the term.
No, I do though. It was
Can I shoot through glass?
Wow. Marx. It was Karl Marx.
He did not coin the term bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie's been a term since forever.
He certainly popularized it, I will say that.
Well, obviously the proletariat kind of concept. I think we're still dealing with that. I mean, that's the other reason.
Yeah, that's my point.
I think that's the other reason for the... Well, that was weird. What? Oh, no. Oh, there you go. There's a lot of them. There's a whole lot more of them than I thought. Come on, show me your melons.
Don't say that. No, that's exactly it. And I feel like that concept...
because I do think there is definitely this idea. I think that's partially part of it is the, if you were to hold yourself to any higher standard, then that would be somehow like you being a traitor of the lower class, because we should all be equal in our poverty.
But see, what should have happened was the upper or the middle to upper middle class should have risen to the next level, rather than everyone just saying we're all the same at the lower level. Well, they can't do that,
because then there would be a new upper class.
But that...
And therefore, the whole point is they don't want the upper class.
The idea is, though, equality, if you will, across, or at least equal opportunity.
This is what Solzhenitsyn said when you're saying mankind is born with different capabilities. If they are equal, or if they are free, they will not be equal, and if they are equal, they will not be free. It's like, if you're going to insist that everyone be on the same level, some people are going to have to be kept at that level.
Precisely.
And some people are going to have to be pushed to that level.
Well,
rather than just, you're going to be whoever you are.
Right.
And that, I think, maybe that's the other reason why people would distrust, like, oh, who do you think you are, being all fancy, dressing up, thinking you're classy and whatever.
But I feel like, to me, it should have been something where...
Well, you can talk all you want about how it should have been. That's how you go mad.
No, but what my point is... After, post World War I, what should have happened was idea should have been let's make the upper class no longer some sort of status symbol. Let's make
we are on our way to, we're sort of in the age of that, because nowadays the upper class is not politically powered. It's the sort of socially famous. It's like, who's the modern upper class? Well, it's either high-ranking business people or celebrities, because they're the ones who have all the money. They're the ones who have the same level of influence, and the ones we permit to do whatever they want, effectively.
So would that be like people like Elon Musk and his whole buying of Twitter?
People still are angry about that, though, because they disagree with his politics, and therefore
it certainly doesn't.
But it doesn't stop them that, like, if Kim Kardashian had bought Twitter, everyone would be like, "Oh, great, we're all saved." At which point I'm like, we probably would have, because then Twitter would have gone down and we would have all been free of it. But like, that's the double standard that exists now, is that we're okay with some people being rich, just not the people we don't like being rich. And that's so. Consider that the fact that it has only been roughly 100 years. Like, we had the old system for at least 1,000 years, almost.
Yeah, I suppose that's
true. From like the 1000s to the 1800s, that the sort of aristocratic system was the way it was.
Yeah, but I just feel like,
and it has only just been toppled. So I do think the pendulum will reach the middle eventually, but we're still on the other swing.
Maybe. I suppose my point is less about monetary value, or even, it's more about the actual execution of culture. Like,
well, those did used to go hand in hand, after all.
Right, and
only the rich could afford, the nice things.
But I mean,
not manners. That's
no, I was meaning.
Oh, manor houses.
No, I was meaning manners as in MANNER. But I was meaning this concept that we threw out, not only the culture or even the monetary structure, but also the ideology. The idea that when a woman walks into the room, men have to stand and they had to,
blame the feminists for what who.
Well, but there's a great many things that were like, there's no fanfare, I suppose, anymore.
Well, yes, we because I think that's very much basically what I was getting at earlier is that effectively, obviously, nihilism existed in the 1800s because that's when Nietzsche was around, but it wasn't until post-war that people went, oh, life really does suck. And it's like, yeah, fair enough, life really did suck for those people. But this is why I've had the soft spot for absurdism, because absurdism is, I think, effectively a positive view of nihilism. Where it's like,
sure,
yeah, life certainly can suck, but what else do you have to do? It's a little bit, it's like, yeah, life doesn't make much sense a lot of the times, and you're going to suffer a bunch, but there's also some things you might enjoy.
Sure.
So you might as well just get what you can out of it, minor and meaningless as it may end up being. There's no reason to stop you at that point.
Right.
Whereas I think the nihilist thing, we're still in that nihilist age where it's like nothing means anything, so why bother? And it's like, well, why bother? Because it actually makes us want to live. Like, there's even been the numerous studies of, like, I think it's called the broken window theory, where it's basically, whoa, well, you really nailed the one guy 3 times, and then his buddies got you, but you got him real good.
I double tapped his head.
The broken window theory was basically where, I forget how the original study was done, but there was some abandoned factory that, for the first while, it looked the way it did, and then at one point, I don't remember if it was done deliberately or if it was an accident or something, but one of the windows was broken and it wasn't repaired, and immediately within, days, people just started trashing it, because once it becomes established culturally that, like, we don't care about this thing, then it's just people will actively destroy it for literally no other reason than because there's no consequence to it.
So do you believe... So put you and I in the context of upper middle class. We have just kind of destroyed...
Are you saying hypothetically, or...
I'm saying
like,
in
that
era hypothetically.
So if I was an aristocrat back in the day?
Upper middle class.
Oh, well, okay. So I could be a business owner, factory owner.
Yeah, whatever. Factory owner. So...
Thomas Shelby technically would still be upper middle class.
I agree.
He always talks about the result
idea
of
that
business
he's a working
ownership.
Man.
Yeah, he owned businesses and things.
So Well, but he is the definition of somebody, of the self-made man, which again I think is lost.
He says that even in... Well, no.
It's
the
mostly
entrepreneurial
lost.
spirit is still alive, but it is not culturally respected.
Few. Do you realize that?
No, not in few, but I think it's not culturally respected as it once was.
It's not culturally respected. In fact,
but there
I would
are
argue
nonetheless.
that it's
There's
in
plenty
fact
of
crapped upon.
Only once they actually reach the success. That's the cruel irony of it. It's like we're all about, you do you, be your individual, hustle, get it, and then once you've got it, we don't want you to have it anymore.
We want to take it from you. No, I think so put you and I in that context right after,
All right, well, can we get, what's the... I want to inhabit this world.
If I am
what do we own?
If I'm trying to put
who's
forth, I'm raising my
though?
Kids, for instance,
to
try to value the rules of that culture to a degree, as far as the fanfare. That was a good shot.
I blew off the top square of his head. I didn't hit much of him, but the much I hit went...
Oh, he's got it!
Let me just...
You murdered his butt.
I was going to say something that alliterates with that.
Wow.
I mean, I really got right up in them. Come on, pal.
So...
It's do-si-do. Oh, you do-si'd me.
But, I mean, when you're trying to communicate, what you're trying to get at is once the structure that actually maintains that cultural system is removed, in this case the aristocracy, that cultural system then basically implodes on itself. Is that what you're getting at?
No, I think it replaces itself, but just with something else. That's why celebrities are such a thing these days, is they are the new aristocracy, because there is no such thing as no aristocracy.
But...
The aristocracy used to be, I was born into this family, therefore I get the land and the money and all that. Now we just have the celebrity
But there was a required... not respect. There was a required almost...
There was an expected respect. There was no requirement. The problem... I don't necessarily think that the aristocracy was something that had to be defended and we were wrong to do away with it.
No, I'm not saying
that
either. What I'm saying is...
there were injustices by people who should have definitely, carried with their... There should have always been with... Well, to pull out the Spider-Man quotes, there should have always been the responsibility with the power. I inherited this power and authority and fortune and influence, and I therefore, carry it respectfully. But it's too easy when you have that not to do it, because again, there's so few consequences.
Well, but my previous kind of hypothetical, my point in that is saying once the consequence, as you say, is removed, there's no, not pressure is not the right word. There's no,
you're poking your head out when you do this.
I know. I was trying to, there's no accountability to, for instance, the culture that says something like a wedding has to be, you are in black tie or whatever else.
Well,
there's no expectancy.
I feel like there's still that's probably one of the last few things where there's still the expectation of it's not truly black tie, but if you showed up in a t-shirt, people would probably take offense. What I'm saying is a commoner or a common person now, middle class, just normal person, working man, the fact that we don't know, probably owns
sitting down at a table,
maybe one suit, if that.
Yeah, and I'm just saying things like the fact that when we sit down at a table, we don't know which fork is supposed to be for this versus that, where they're supposed to sit.
I've seen the manuals of those things, and there is a degree to which I'm when the table takes 6 hours to set, I can start to agree that okay, that goes too far. Because I assure you, the working man was not setting his table that way.
I agree, but all I'm saying is when there is no fanfare, then nothing is. It's a little bit of it. Borrow from the quote of
something has to be sacred,
right?
And if it isn't what deserves to be, it will be what doesn't deserve to be. I think C.S. Lewis said something. It's a longer quote, so I don't remember all of it, but it's something like, if a man cannot kneel before the king, he will kneel before something, I forget. And then he says, the sacred instinct will always be fed. If it is denied food, it will devour poison.
Yeah.
It's like there is the natural, it's like what Jordan Peterson says, there's hierarchies everywhere. You can't undo them.
You can't avoid them either.
So,
People
really?
try to...
I felt like I got him, but I at least gave him a good scare.
That, I think, is the cruel irony of our society currently, in how we're trying to abolish things like gender archetypes, like, again, demonetization happening right now. But I mean, like, even...
You ain't said anything that spicy yet. What are we getting demonetized for?
Well, I mean, it's just suggesting that to dismantle all stratas is crazy making.
Well, but that's Marxism for you.
Well, I agree.
You will all be equal in hell. Is effectively their... I think it was Winston Churchill who said it.
They're planning on taking us there.
Winston Churchill said it in a way that I do think is just really fascinating and funny, because of course he had the wit about him. But I think he said something like, communism can only exist in two places, heaven where it is not needed and hell where they already have it. It's like, yeah, you can, the only way to make people equal is to force people downwards, because the problem is you have to stay lowest denominator at that point. If everyone's going to be equal, you can only be as successful as the least successful person, because they can't be artificially propped up.
Which is the biggest problem of it. Yeah.
Because that's it. You can't... They have this expectation that, well, we'll just peel from the top of the rich and give it to the poor, and then we'll all be equal in the middle. It's like, no, all you can do is clamp down on the rich, and that's it. Which means you can only be as successful as the poorest person, because some people will refuse to work. This is why I don't know why we aren't forced to read these things in school. Because it's so obvious. Like, when you read Utopia, I'm like, you're just wrong. This is a flawed view of humanity, and I feel like it's obvious. So why weren't we taught this as kids? Like, the fact that I didn't read that until I was I was still in college, but I was out of high school, but I read it of my own accord, and I'm just like, you're just wrong. This is just a flawed view of mankind.
But do you think that is
and the fact
incidental, or do you think that is purposeful?
I don't think it's purposefully flawed. I think it's flawed, and I just don't think that I think it's willfully blind.
But willful is the key word there.
Well, yes, because people like their ideology to make them feel good, but they don't care how impractical it is.
Well, not only that, but I think the people that are pushing the ideology that they would say...
Well, communism has only ever benefited the people in government. It has only ever benefited the elites. It's never benefited the people under it.
Right, but what I'm getting at is the reason that you don't read books like that is because the fact that it doesn't fit their narrative that they're trying to push.
I don't know that that's as... I mean, you could maybe make that argument.
That sounds a little bit government conspiracy-ish, but
maybe. I don't know that it's... I think that you could chalk up to just ineptitude. I don't think the government is good at teaching things.
I don't know that it's that benign.
Well, because I think that to attribute that level of malice is actually giving far too much credit.
Do you think so?
I think people are often more stupid than they are evil.
Wow. We got a lot of ignorant people out there then.
Oh, yeah. Well, because that's... It... This is why Jordan Peterson talks about, it's like, malevolence, encountering a malevolent person is so jarring because it is so unusual.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like, someone who actively seeks to just make your life suck for literally no reason.
Yeah.
Usually, people who, the people that you don't get along with, or people that you have some kind of issue with, that you might even go so far as to call an enemy, which is a little bit dramatic, but they are people who... not that they're stupid intellectually, but just that you're not... Well, you're on separate brainwaves, and they conflict with each other.
Yeah, but more than that...
It's not that they are actively seeking out to hurt you, because when you encounter people like that, that's what Jordan Peterson talks about, that's the kind of thing that can shatter your entire worldview. Because you're not used to people being that vindictive and that evil. Most of the time, they're just indifferent to you.
And or foolish.
Yes, and their indifference, their foolishness often... affects you negatively, and then their indifference means they don't do anything about it.
Right.
But that still is the kind of thing where it's like, yes, I'm annoyed by you, but I don't think you're actively seeking to undo my existence.
Well, it's the benign neglect versus intentional...
Yeah, well, that's why I know that I've shared this quote before in one of these, but I don't remember which, but it's from Let's Drown Out, when they're talking about how dystopia often arises from bureaucracy rather than oppression. And so the quote that I mean, it wasn't a quote, he said it himself, which I thought was great, but it was, one of them said, dystopias are always more Brazil than they are Big Brother. And I have not seen Brazil, but I know that it's effectively a sort of corrupt dystopian thing, but it isn't a oppressive thing. It's more of the bureaucratic regime that sort of, it's the political machine that undoes everything, not by malice, but simply because it's inept and it can't respond properly.
Right.
It's like, usually that's, I mean, again, I think that's why I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. It's like the idea that that the government, because that gives the government a whole lot of credit that they're able to keep most of this stuff secret. Where it's like the guy who killed bin Laden was found out like 6 months after it happened. And that was supposed to be like a super top heavy, one of the heaviest secrets. Like, we're never going to let that go. It's like Watergate. What? None of these things, where the government's not good at keeping secrets. So the idea that they could be controlling everything and we wouldn't know, it's like, that's just not true. You're giving the government way too much credit by thinking that. It's much more likely that the government is just made up of people who don't know what they're doing. And then, more than don't know what they're doing, there's the element of being too narcissistic to just admit that you don't know what they're doing. That's, I suppose, the true ingredient. Is it's... grenades!
Isolation from each other, or were you... I mean...
What? I didn't say anything about isolation. What? Okay. I don't think this strategy works.
You mentioned your previous statement. Sorry, maybe I misunderstood. You just now said the secret ingredient was what?
Because I think there's... Yeah, I think there's the ineptitude, but then there's also the unwillingness to acknowledge said ineptitude. That's about as malicious as it gets. From
who, though?
Well, from anyone, but especially in people in government, where it's like, to be bad at your job, yes, that's, you could potentially cause some harm and make issues, especially if you're in government. But it's the refusal to admit it, and because then you could just be like, okay, yeah, we made a mistake, and we're going to fix it. The problem comes when you're too invested and you got too much ego involved to admit to the mistake.
Well,
that's when it becomes a bureaucratic oppression. Rather than, again, it's not malicious, we're going to oppress the people. It's
that's
just,
kind of what I mean.
We're inept, but we're not going to acknowledge it.
That's, I guess, what I was meaning by isolated is that when you... Because our society, obviously, specifically in America, but I mean, on a broader level, I would say that this is probably a universal worldview at this point as far as value system, is that there is a high value placed on individualism, I would argue.
Well, certainly.
Maybe not in Eastern.
That's
maybe
still
not
a Western
Eastern.
thing.
Yeah, I was about to say. But the... The separation where we become less united.
It used to be a matter of rights and duties, and now all we care about is rights.
Correct.
Jordan Peterson has the quote where he talks about...
What that really does, it comes down to this idea of... It's a little bit of the quote of, ask not what your government can do for you kind of a thing, because the minute we isolate ourselves to the point that we're like, well, it's all about me, that does come down to where you start denying you're denying incompetence. Versus when we as a collective go, no, you suck as a leader, we're not going to... I mean, it's like...
The pirates knew how to do it.
Exactly.
But that's the Jordan Peterson quote. Well, it's not a quote exactly, because it's a bit more of it was part of a lecture he was giving where he says that rights, the reason we even had the establishment of rights is because we all knew what the duties were. And the idea was, if your rights were were instantiated governmentally so that you could perform your duties without interference.
Right.
And now we've just gone, well, what are my rights? Well, now there's no duties. At which point, then it does, no one cares.
All my rights are going to be not infringed upon, but it's like, well, who's holding those up? Well, certainly not me, but don't mess with them. It's like, well, okay.
Well, exactly. The whole point of your rights was effectively the protection of everyone else's. That's why you had your rights.
Right.
Because you can only have rights if they're protecting yours. Like that, I mean, it's a bit of I feel like I should have gotten that.
That you should.
Man, these guys are... I don't know what guns they got. Well, but it's a bit of the armed societies is a polite society where it's like, you only have the right to life so long as everyone else acknowledges you have it. Let's just be real bleak about that. It's like, if someone's determined to rob you of your rights, there's nothing that can stop them except other people willing to defend your rights.
including yourself. But I mean, again, it's the idea that a society built on we all agree that
that's the
we
social
have
contract.
the power to defend ourselves. It's what you were talking about earlier with the whole warrior, it's sitting among warriors, you have your discussions are different. It's like,
that's a Jordan Peterson thing where you're going, diplomacy is only possible when violence is under the table.
Right, exactly.
So going, if we don't find a peaceable solution, we will find a non-peaceable solution. And since we can all agree that we don't want that, we have to find the peaceable solution. That's what's like, unless there's the threat that I could deck you, you're going to have to be, no one's going to respect you.
I just keep thinking Han shot first. I mean, it's the idea. Well, no.
I mean, yes.
The reason for that, the reason I keep thinking that is because, again, it's the idea that, again, you have to have the position of power requires a level of commitment to saying, I will do what is necessary.
Again, you can only, if no one will respect you in a conversation. I mean, this is a bit dramatic, but I mean,
it sounds harsh.
Not just in any conversation, but I suppose a tense conversation of disagreement and like there's an issue to be resolved. No one will respect your position unless there's the chance you could deck them. Because unless there is that threat that unless this is resolved civilly, it will devolve into violence, then there's no reason for anyone to try and solve things civilly.
Well, case in point, you have all these keyboard warriors that are like, hey, I'm going to say whatever the crap I want to say online, and there's no consequence.
That's another thing.
Well, we're going to have to call it quits for this episode for now, but...
I do it manually.
But you got to have a sign-off, and I have one, so how about I use it?
Sure.
Because I've been thinking about this for a long time, so this has been KMTR, Two Nerds Jousting, and remember, think responsibly.